All right, hi everyone. We're having technical difficulties, so I apologize for the delay, but hopefully we can get this thing running. All right, so welcome to Automation Hour. If you're joining us for the first time, all lines are muted. Do post any questions that you have to our Trailblazer community, Salesforce Automation Hour. And sometime after the session, we will post a link to the recording as well as the deck and communicate that out. All right, and upcoming sessions for the rest of the year, we have Rita and Matt in November and December. And then we should be publishing shortly at least the next 6 months worth of automation sessions for 2020. So if you have a business use case with a cool process automation, there's still time for you to submit ideas for us for next year. So direct message any of us and we can send you a link to the form to submit your idea. And we cannot bring this free webinar series to you without our sponsor, Concrete.io, so I want to give them a shout out. And here are your co-hosts, David Litton, Rakesh Gupta, and myself. And all three of us will be at Dreamforce next year, so definitely stop by and say hi to us as we wander around all of San Francisco. And I want to present Shruti. She's presented on Automation Hour a few times now, and she is our guest presenter from India, and I believe it is not the 18th, but the 19th of October right now in India. So I thank you, Shruti, for coming on and for your dedication and coming on and staying up late in order to present to us. So with that, I am going to hand it off to Shruti to present. And now you should have control, Shruti. And hopefully she's not having audio issues. Okay, Shruti, we see your deck, but I'm not hearing you.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, great. I can hear you now.
Yes. So I work as a senior Salesforce developer, and I have spoken at multiple conferences. I also lead the Women in Tech and the student user groups in my area. And you can always reach out to me on my Twitter handle, that is Shruti for Chess. All right, so let's look at the agenda for today. We will learn about emotion analysis. Then we will have a sneak peek at the use case. And then I will walk you through the building of the process followed by the demo. And finally, we will wrap it up with a Q&A. So, what is emotion analysis? Well, Wikipedia defines it as the process of identifying human emotion. And there are two ways. One from the facial expression and the other is from the verbal expressions. And we will focus on the verbal expression. Now, the Tricky thing here is humans can do this automatically, but how does a machine do it? We will find it out. So, machines perform the emotion analysis by using the machine learning, which is nothing but a subset of artificial intelligence. Now, trust me, the moment when I hear the AI or the artificial intelligence, it sends a shiver down my spine, and I have no idea about that branch of computing. Well, most of us don't unless you are a machine learning scientist. So, what do we do now? And that's where free APIs come in. And I know when I say APIs, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, uh, that is a developer thing, but not anymore. And we will find out. So there are a lot of free APIs like the Einstein Sentiment, IBM Watson, Amazon Comprehend, Google Cloud Natural Language API, even from the Microsoft, the Text Analytics API, Indigo. But guess what? They are not completely free. It's a freemium based subscription, pretty much like the limits that we have in Salesforce. For example, the Einstein Sentiment, which is Salesforce's very own AI, offers only 1,000 predictions per month. Now, the Amazon, Microsoft, etc., have their own limitations too. But there is something called Indigo, and they offer up to 10,000 free predictions per month. So we will explore Indigo text analysis APIs. So before we dig deeper, let's just revisit what an API is. In simple words, it provides an interface through which two or more remote systems can talk to each other. So which are the two systems in our case? It is Salesforce and the Indigo. So in other words, Salesforce would need to send a block of text to the Indigo servers, which would then perform the emotion analysis and return the results. Alright, so let's look at our use case. So as a support representative, I need to analyze the emotion of the text in the description field of a case record, which was created via maybe email to case or maybe web to case. Then, depending on the emotion, I want I want to automatically present to the support rep with recommendations or the best next best actions that needs to be executed. So let's see how we will accomplish this. So first we will send the description to the Indigo via API using external services and flow. Then we will store the emotions such as joy, anger, fear, etc. on the case record. And then finally, we will use Einstein Next Best Action to show the best recommendations. All right, so let's build this. All right. So, so let me take you to the Indigo website. So this is their documentation. So like I mentioned before, we are going to use the text analysis API. And out of the text analysis, they have like lot of versions. And the one that we are going to focus is called emotion. Alright, so one of the key things that we have to understand about APIs that all of them will have an address, a web address, and we would send data to this web address, and then it would return the results back. So this is the API that the Indigo offers for the emotion analysis. Now there are basically two things that you need to supply. One is the data, of course, and the other is the API key. So let me show that to you. Something like this, where I have supplied the API key and the data. So don't worry about all this code here. So we'll be getting to it later. And you can see that the output provided are 5 different emotions: anger, joy, fear, sadness, surprise, and the value of each emotion. And the one with the highest value is the detected emotion. So here it is fear. So like I mentioned before, you need to supply the data and the API key. So after you sign up for Indigo, you will be able to get their yes, so after you sign up for Indigo, you'll be able to get their API key from their dashboard. So let's just copy this API key, and now I need to store it in Salesforce. So for that, let me create a custom setting. So I type in here custom settings, and I click on new, and let's name this custom setting as API keys, and hit save. So now let me create a new custom field which is of type text. I hit the next, and now let me name the field as Indigo API key, and the length would be 255, and I hit the next, and finally save it. So now let me store the API key. So I hit on manage and I hit on the new. So the reason why I chose custom settings is that we can access them in formula fields, flows. You will see that very soon. So I have saved it and I have put the API key. So the next thing is calling the Indigo API. And how am I going to do that? Using external services. So let me go and create an external service. I type here external, I select external services, and now I click on the add an external service button. Now let me name it as Indigo API. Oops, I don't have a name credential. So this is a very important step when you create an external service. The first thing that you have to do is create a name credential. So now let me close this and create a name credential first. Now, what is this name credential? So you are actually accessing an API that is outside Salesforce. So whenever you need to access something outside Salesforce, you need to authenticate it. You need to prove yourself as a valid client to the Indigo service. So a name credential is nothing but to store the authentication settings of your API. But luckily for Indigo, we do not have any complications uh, for the authentication. You can send the API key in the body itself. So in the name credential, all I have to do is just create it with the URL alone. So I'm copying it and here I'm at the name credential. I'm pasting the URL and let me name it as Indigo and finally hit save. So remember that I'm not setting up any authentication because my API key is sent within the body. So here I hit the save button. Now our name credential is ready and now let's go back to our external services. So repeat add external service and now let me name it as Indigo API and here I have my name credential now. Alright, so this is a tricky part. So you need to teach or maybe tell the external service in Salesforce the details about your API. And this is done with the help of a special markup language called Swagger. Now, you don't have to worry writing a Swagger because most of the APIs in the web are already providing a Swagger. So, all you have to do is find the link that the Swagger is and just download the source, that is the source Swagger schema, that is the JSON resolved, and here it is downloaded. Sorry, it's unresolved, and here I have it downloaded, and let me open it. So, like I mentioned before, you don't have to worry about writing all this because most of the APIs that we have today already have Swagger schema ready. So here I got the Swagger schema for Indigo APIs. Now let me just copy this and I go back to Salesforce external service, and here I'm pasting the Swagger schema and I'm hitting the save button. So if the Swagger is valid, then you will be able to go to the next screen. And here I am. And here you will see that it was registered successfully. Alright, so we successfully created the external service. Now, how do I use this? So, before going into all those details, let me show you a small demo of what we are going to build today. So here I click the new button for creating a new case, and the case origin I'm selecting as web, and I'm giving a subject, phone malfunction, and also I'm giving a short description. And finally saving the case record. So you can see the case record was successfully created. Now that's the flow that we are going to build. Detect emotion. Let me toggle it and hit the next. And here I'm hitting the finish. So what just happened was a call was made to the Indigo API and the emotion was detected. As you can see, we got all the values of the 5 emotions. And one that was significant was the fear emotion, and the highest emotion value is thus the fear. And also there is a description which says customer is sad. And now you can see that a next best action was recommended automatically, saying that the customer is unhappy and it is recommended that we activate the warranty immediately. So now let me continue the video. You can see that the highest emotion was fear, and the customer was sad. That's your recommendation, and I activated the warranty. And finally hitting the next, and yes, the warranty is activated. Finish. So all I'm doing here is checking a checkbox to identify the warranty has been activated. So through this, what I'm trying to show is the emotion was detected, and based on the emotion we were able to show the next best action. So now let's go ahead and build it. So the next thing, in order to use this external service, we need to build a flow. So let me type flow and click on flows, and here I am. Now let me click on new flow, and this should open my flow builder, and I'm choosing a screen flow, clicking on the create button. So the first thing here I want to do is to show a screen. So I'm dragging the screen element to my canvas, and here I'm giving a label to get emotion. Also, let me add a simple display text where I'm just giving a message to the end users, and I'm naming it as prompt. Please click the next button to detect the emotion. Emotion is detected using indigo APIs. Alright, so I click on the done button. So this is just a prompt message to our end users. Now let me just connect the nodes. So like I mentioned before, the next thing that we need to do is call the indigo APIs. But what do we call the indigo APIs with? Nothing but the case description. So I need to query my case records. So in order to do that, I'm using the get records, and let me label it as grab case description, and the object is case. Yes, so I select the case. Now I'm going to grab the case by the ID. So ID equals, I'm going to create a new variable for this, which will be a variable called record ID. Now this is very important. you have to name it exactly how I wrote, because we are going to embed this flow on a case record, and Salesforce would automatically send the ID of that case record to this variable. So let the type be text, and also it's very important to mark it as available for input. And I'm hitting done. So your condition is ready. Now I'm going to create a new variable to store my case records with just the ID and the description. So it is going to get the record type variable. I have named it as case and the type will be record and the object is case. And I'm hitting the done. And let me just choose the fields that I am interested in. So like I mentioned before, we will be sending the description to the indigo APIs. So hence I choose the description field and I am hitting the done. And now connect both of them. And now the next thing is calling the indigo APIs. So for that I use the action, and it is using the action that I'm calling the external service. You can see that here there is an option called external service, and you can see that the post emotion is here already. So I select that and let me name it as find emotion. So like I mentioned before, what are the two things that you have to supply? The API key and the body. Now you will be able to see that the external service has already created a new data type, but nothing but an apex defined data type, which is called emotion API request. And I'm selecting that and naming it as request. Hit done. And that's it. So before I call the emotion API, I need to supply my API key and also the description. So now let me name it as construct request. And here you can select that variable, which is the request variable, the apex defined type, specifying the API key and the value. And now this is the interesting part. So now you will understand why I use a custom setting. So here I chose a formula and I'm naming it as API key, and the return type will be the text, and here the formula will be from the custom settings. So, here you'll be able to see it's called something like setup, and which is your custom setting, and here you can choose your indigo API key. So this is how you basically reference your custom settings in a formula, and it's also very important that the custom setting needs to be of type hierarchy. So that's done, hit done. So the next thing that I have to give is the description. So here I'm selecting data, and the value will be nothing but the case description. So here I have the case record, and here let me select the description field and yes, hit done. So now let me connect the get records to the assignment and the assignment to my action. Let me just tidy this a bit. Alright, so after we grab the emotion, the next thing that we have to do is to store them back to the case record. So let me just revisit the document again, and here you can notice that this is how you basically get the value from the Indigo API. So, the next thing that you have to do is grab another assignment and say collect results. I'm sorry. We need to go back to the action and specify store output variables and click on new resource, which will be of type variable, and the data type will be apex defined, and you can see that the apex class was automatically created, which is called emotion API response, and I'm selecting that and I'm giving the name as response and hitting done. And you can see that the response is automatically assigned here. So we have set the request and we got the response. Now we need to grab the 5 numbers from the response. So I go back to my flow builder, drag in another assignment, and let me name it as collect results, variable. I'll be creating a new variable which will be of type variable, and the apex defined data type, and the apex class you can choose as results, and let me name it as results and hit done. Now this will be equal to the results, sorry, the response, this is nothing but the response variable that we created, dot results, and let me hit done. Now let me just connect the action to assignment, and let me tidy it. And in Winter 20, you can see that you can actually move the start nodes, which is quite interesting. So now I have collected my results, and the results are nothing but all these 5 nodes. Now I now need to save them into my case record. So for that, I'm dragging an other assignment, and I'm calling it as collect emotions, and let me uh, choose the case and the variable. So I'm choosing the type. So I had actually created different fields on the case record to store the different emotions, the 5 emotions. So these are basically nothing but the number fields with 9 decimals. I'll just reset the zoom. Alright, so this will be equal to the results and the anger. Now I'm adding another assignment, and now let me choose mm, the next one is joy. So here we face and let's select the joy field, joy emotion. Now this will be equals to results and joy. Now I'm adding another assignment, and I'm choosing the next field. So after joy we have fear, and so let me just choose fear now. Mm, I choose the fear field, which will be equals to mm, results and the fear. I need to add another assignment, and after fear we have sadness. So I go back, and here I choose the sadness field from the case record, that is sadness emotion, which will be equal to the results dot sadness. And now finally we have surprise, and let me choose that field. So here in the flow I'm choosing case dot my surprise motion field, which will be equals to results dot surprise. So I'll choose it from here, surprise, and that's it. Let me click done. Now let me just connect them together. Let me tidy it also. Alright. So now what I have to do? My next step is to save it into the database. Alright. So for that, I'll use update records, and let me uh, name it a save case, and I'll choose the same variable that we created in the beginning. That's pretty much, and hit done. Now let me just connect them. Yes. And finally, let me just add another screen to show the success message. So I'm naming it as success, and um, adding a display text here, naming it as success prompt, and emotions have been identified. Okay, please hit finish. That's it, done. Now let me connect them and finally hit save. So let me name it as detect emotion. You can save. So now this is an other interesting Winter 20 feature. You can activate your flow right from here itself with this activate button, and then clicking on that. Now let me go back. So now I need to add this flow to my case record page. So let me go to a case record, type in your case, got cases. Now you'll be able to add that flow to your case record, and I'm clicking on edit page here, and let me now drag the flow component from here. Alright, let me just drag this. Yes. Now this is very important. This is the variable that we created in the very beginning of our flow, and we had named it as record ID. Now you can see that the uh, app builder automatically identified it and is applying the case ID to here. And also it is very important to check this checkbox, and I'm hitting save. Mm, Now let me add a related or let me just save it and hit back. So this is our case record, and I'll go here to my object manager. So I had actually created a quick action which is called indigo emotion analysis. Now, the reason why I created this was to group all my emotion fields together in a single place. So let me add that quick action also to my page. So here I go to edit page. And in order to add your quick action, you can use the component which is nothing but the related record. So I'm typing it here, and I'm using the action which is indigo emotion analysis, which was the quick action that I had created. Alright, so let me hit save, and let me go back. So now let me create a new case, and the case origin, let's say it's web, and the subject, let's give it as phone malfunction. The description, my phone stop, and just 2 days ago. Replacement. Okay. So let me hit save. The case was created. Now let me click on next, and perfect. The emotions have been identified. Click finish, and there you go. The the most significant emotion is anger, and the highest emotion value is 0.45, which relates to anger, and the emotion description is sad. So these are two formula fields that I had created. In the case, the highest emotion value does nothing but finds the max out of all these five fields. Now I have grouped joy, surprise as customer is happy, and anger, fear, and sadness as customer is sad, a sad emotion. So that's pretty much with the emotion detection. So the next thing is building the next best action. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to create a one. So in order to set up the next best action, the first thing that you have to do is create recommendation records. So here I go So this is just like any other custom object or any other objects that we have in Salesforce. You can add your own fields, and I'm creating a new, let's name it as happy. Now this is very important. Um so you need to supply an image here. Let me just upload image, and let me select sad. So description, give it as a customer is unhappy. Now basically, uh, to the recommendation, what we are doing is mm, presenting uh, the Salesforce users with the possible next steps that they can do. So if the customer is happy, the next step, uh, we should activate the warranty immediately. So activating the warranty is the recommendation that we are presenting to the customers. Now, how is unhappy identified? With the help of an emotion. So, um, put the category as sad, and the acceptance label will be two button labels: activate, warranty, and the section label will be maybe later. Now, this is very important. Um, every recommendation needs an active flow that you can point to. So, in other words, the flow helps the recommendation to decide what to do in case of warranty, for activating the warranty. So in our case, mm, so now let's create an other flow which simply checks the checkbox on the uh, case object. A checkbox which is called activate warranty. Here I am. It's screen flow. Mm, I'm checking. Yes. So the first thing that you need to do is create a new resource of type variable, and let me name it as record ID, just like we did it in the previous flow. It needs to be the same exact name, and the data type will be text. Mm, and also you need to mark this checkbox, and finally hit done. Now I'm using get records to query my case records. So let me name it grab case, and the object will be case. Mm, so let me specify the condition, which is nothing but the ID mm, equals to the record ID. and I'm also choosing the activate warranty field. I'm hitting done. Now let me just connect them. Now let me use an assignment to check the checkbox activate warranty, and the variable will be grab keys activate warranty. So if you notice something, I didn't actually create any record variable. Now uh, you can actually use the save uh, records element, get records element to represent your variable. So grab case activate warranty equals true, and it's done. I'm connecting them. Let me just tidy it. And then finally use the update records, and let me name it as save case, and the record will be the same get records element. And finally hit done. We connect the nodes, save, let me name it as activate warranty, and hit save. Let me activate it, and now unfortunately I will have to refresh. Now I'm creating a new recommendation. Let's name it as sad. Customer is unhappy, and the image I'm selecting, it should have been here. Yes, sad. Add that, and category sad, and add certain labels. What do later? Alright. Now here you will be able to see your flow, which is activate warranty and hit save. So you created your recommendation record. So now how can I show that recommendation on the case page? And for that you have to create a strategy. So here I go. So it was actually called strategy builder, but now it is renamed as next best action. So here I have two of them created already, but I'm creating a new one, a new strategy. I'm naming it as sad, and let me choose the case object because that is where we need to show the recommendations, and hit done. Now use a load to load your recommendations. Load and happy recommendation field. mm, I'm using the category field which I created, and equals that The category I supplied was sad. I'm using that sad, and I hit done. Alright, that's pretty much. So I'm clicking save, but I will use the one that I have created already. So I'm going back to my case record, and let me edit the page. And now here you will be now able to use the Einstein Next Best Action. So I'm dragging it to my page. Alright. So it will automatically select sad customer, and title, let's say sad customer. Now that's all you have to do, and you can hit save. And other thing is you can also add component visibility. Choose the highest emotion description and contains sad. Done. So the recommendation is visible only when the customer is sad or maybe unhappy. So I go back. Now you will be able to see the recommendation coming up here. So you can see customer is unhappy. I'm clicking activate warranty, and it had actually run my flow, and also it checked the checkbox which is activate warranty. Now let me just refresh it and show you that it is checked. Here you go. So warranty activated, and this is nothing but a custom field which I have created on my case object, which just simply checks if the activate warranty checkbox is checked. Let me search it, additional info, and you can see that it's a formula field which simply checks whether the activate warranty is checked, and if so, then show the activate sorry, show the extended warranty image. And that's the reason why this image has been displayed. So in short, we combined the features of external services, flows, and next best action uh, to provide a better user experience. And also, it's important to know that we didn't write even a single line of code. Alright, so back to my presentation. So now the resources, you can definitely take a look at the Trailhead modules, and I'm also going to write a detailed blog post which I'll be publishing very soon. Alright, so over to the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Shruti. So let me check. Oh my goodness, we over 20 minutes. Okay, that's fine. So let me check. You can hear me, correct?
Yes, I yeah.
Okay. I what the just a second. There is looks like there is no questions here, but I say that I learn lots of things. So thank you so much, and let's wait 1 minute.